Welcome to the Unearthed Man podcast, the journey of becoming a conscious man, hosted by Milvo. Hey all, Milvo here, and welcome to episode 37 of the Unearthed Man podcast. To kick off, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we work and gather, and their continuing connection to land and waters. I pay respect to elders past, present, and emerging. I pay tribute to the diversity of First Nations peoples of Australia and their ongoing culture. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, then welcome aboard. If you're one of my regular listeners, then welcome back. I really appreciate your ongoing support. If you're looking to know more about the Unearthed Man, then you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So I'm still buzzing after the chat with Matt Sinkovich last week, and in particular conversations we had around Buddhism and spirituality. This is in complete alignment with where I am at the moment, and some of the quotes he used will become new mantras for myself moving forward. I particularly like the reference to incense and the scent you wish to leave once you are gone. Now for today's guest. I first met my guest at the Melbourne men's workshop, where he was one of the facilitators along with Wah from episode 33. My guest opened the session with a beautiful acknowledgement and prayer, recognizing the four elements and the four compass directions. This was my first glimpse into the heart of this man. During this workshop, we formed a deeper connection during an exercise that dealt with both abandonment and relationships to our fathers. We openly held and supported each other as we allowed the emotion of past pains to flow through our bodies and tears to cascade down our cheeks. After that, he called me his Aussie Dad, which I hold close and dear to my heart every day. He's one of the most loving and beautiful men that I've ever met. He was born in Hamilton, raised in Wellington, and he moved to the Gold Coast in Queensland when he was a teenager. He worked in construction for the majority of his life, following in his father's footsteps, until he realised his passion was to help people. This was due to his own life experiences with depression and suicide. He wanted to help others as the best version of themselves, like he is doing for himself. He has been part of Amend since the beginning and is one of the key facilitators of their programs. He's been on his own spiritual journey for the past 2 years and is actively working on himself to continually be the best version of who he can be so that he can be a role model for his two sons. He works at a behavioural school for disengaged teenage boys and has been a youth worker for over 5 years. It's with extreme gratitude and love that I welcome to the Unearthed Man podcast, Tuwharetoa, Wiremu, Whakatihi, Paikea. Hey, Tu, how you doing, brother?
Hey, Melbourne. Beautiful pronunciation too, my man.
Excellent, awesome. It's it's one of those things I try to work through. So I hope I got reasonably close.
Done exceptionally well. I've had a fair few names being called in the past, and that was beautiful, my brother.
Thank
my
you.
Aussie dad.
I really appreciate that, man. So look, let's go back to that. So maybe let's start there, but I also want to head back a little bit then, previous to your experience and everything else, because as in the intro we spoke about challenges with depression, suicide. Obviously, a lot of suicidal thoughts were in there because you're with us today. So you've had an opportunity to overcome those or move beyond those. So the men's program, we had a father and son there, and that was the son had been holding some, I suppose, regrets or just holding some guilt and shame against his dad for some what he sort of perceived as his dad's actions. But they had this beautiful acknowledgement of each other and seeing each other for the first time for who they are, knowing that they're humans to make mistakes. I think there was probably 15 odd men in the room. I'm not sure there was an eye that didn't have tears coming out of it, but you and I found each other just embracing each other. And for me, the space you held for me, both like holding me, but also there was space for me, was just absolutely beautiful. And as I said, I'll never forget that. So your experience through that, because I know that was, I've come out of that with a whole lot of releasing about stuff I held against my father. And, that was a major turning point for me. So what was your experience through that one?
My experience, I remember that very clearly. My experience through that whole ordeal, that would have to be one of the most special moments I've ever had inside of a men's workspace. And I've been inside of so many workspaces. Though to see that father and son experience before us and be present in that moment too, it was more, not so much what I saw, it was 100% more so what I felt. the energy in that room. And then I just sort of felt, I could feel your energy next to me. And for whatever reason, I know there was a for you moment that I just put my arm around you, and we actually put heads together and hugged, one arm around each other, and then tears, snot, everything coming down the works. And it was the feeling, the energy. There was no mistaking that energy. Like you said, each and every man that was inside of that room, each and every king was able to witness love from energy sense, from an energy feeling, from an energy observation, from the whole get up of that moment, which was so beautiful. And I feel I was able to hold that space for you because of the so many times I've witnessed it in amongst those spaces. That's what I've always longed for myself from a father. So that's when I leant into you, and I felt that loving connection of what a father and son wanted as well, from witnessing it happening right in front of my eyes. Being present in that moment it was like we were all connected with that energy.
Yes.
And it flowed through all of us. And then that's why all that emotion was so real and authentic. There's no denying that, for my whole heart belief. And then when we were embracing that hug, that's why I leant in and I said those words to feel like my Aussie dad. Because there's one other dude I've said that to as well. And it's another one of our men brothers. He's another Aussie bloke that came to one of our workshops. And I'll quickly tell this story.
Yeah.
And he first rocked up to the workshop and he's like, I'm only here because my partner bought me a ticket. There's nothing wrong with me.
Yep.
He's about 50 odd. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm not sure what I'm here for. By the end of the day, he had realized, oh man, this is for me. This is 100% for me. And moving ahead and advance in the future, now we're sort of holding space together at these workshops and everything like that. And one time I leant towards him and I asked him, said, would you be able to hold space with me at the upcoming women's workshop? And he said, yeah, sure. I'd gladly love to. And in that time, whilst we were in that workshop, had that same sort of father-son feeling, that energy again.
Yeah.
That energy arose. And it was, I know this energy. I'm going to embrace this energy because I felt it before with parts of pain and hurt and everything like that. That's now at the end of that was so beautiful. Joy, understanding, happiness, and father-son love is what I'll call it.
Yeah.
So when I went into that moment, I had that hug and I told him, man, I love you. You're like my Aussie dad. And I think you were the first one I've ever said that to. And he was the second person I've said that to, because it was that feeling of that energy, that father-son energy.
Yeah. And for me, as I said, like in the intro, like that, there's just a place now in my heart that holds that for someone, to someone who've actually just openly called me that, for someone I hadn't met before, but openly called me that was just, it was just something so special for me in that, in where I was. But I think the other thing that came for that for me was there was just so much permission in that room for people to surrender and allow whatever they'd stored up, that emotion that they'd stored up about whatever the resentment or where they hadn't had a chance to forgive their father, and going, you know, our fathers aren't pedestals, right? They are all human. And all they did was did the best that they could with the information they knew. And what I saw in that space and what released was the ability to go, I can completely just let go and release, knowing that my dad, for whatever resentment I may or may not have held against him, as action can just go now, because he just did the best he could with what he knew. And he was the best dad that he knew to be. And it's now up to me to look to be, how can I be the best dad that I can actually be to not only my kids, but to others around me, where I can hold space as a father figure. I mean, I am in those 50s, right? So I'm actually in that elder space, that father space, and I can step into that and go, I can hold the space for you as a father, as a leader, but also as a grieving son. And you can hold those many roles. And for me, that was super powerful that came out of that workshop.
100%. That so much is coming up for me and amongst those, but 3 key things come up for me. And it was something that I always say inside of King Warrior programs. It's something else that men do. But it was a common cliche saying that's let go to be able to let flow. But also surrendering that grief or resentment that we have that puts up all these walls, to allow those walls to go down. We can always put those walls back up if need be.
Yeah.
Because space, energy, those walls do protect us, protecting our energy. But in that moment, you just felt the full surrender, and you're allowing that process to be, allowing to be in that moment, which is so beautiful. And then, like you said, being a father for firstly yourself, for your own kids, and then to be that grieving son, to know, have an understanding of all those levels is such a beautiful thing. And then still being able to be that fatherly figure for others, and for some that have that or don't have that or don't know how that looks, because like you said, our fathers only knew what they knew. And I used to have resentment towards my old man. I don't at all now. Knowing what I know now, he was only doing what he could with his tools. And then knowing a bit more of what actually happened to him along his whole lifestyle and the trauma that he had to go through makes me more compassionate, more understanding for him, and so grateful as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a few things that popped in my mind there as you were talking, and it's a bit off. In Wah's episode, we talked about, hurt people. And if you've learned how to hurt people, you can learn how to love people. If you've learned how to build the wall, you can learn how to take the wall down. Like, it's something you can actually learn to do. So if you're so good at building them, that you can actually become really good at learning to take them down and understand that it's a safe space to be able to do that as you're going through. So, and the other thing in the episode from last week, which I spoke with Matt Sinkovich about, was we spoke about learning that compassion of putting yourself into the other person's shoes. So before you judge somebody, go into the inquiry mode, go, if I was living their life, like allow myself to think as me living their life. And if you take that angle, I mean, my dad, his father was in Gallipoli in World War One. Like, he was a returned soldier from Gallipoli, came back with no emotion, like completely closed off. So, and my dad was, brought up with, 7 others in the house, you're having a bath once a week. Like, he had a really tough life, and so if I go, try to imagine what that life was like, and then turn around and say, here's my expectations of a father, I probably have unrealistic expectations because, and then I go, what did I do to hold space for him and allow him to be the person he needed to be? And I go, well, I never did that. So, so there's things you can actually look at yourself for your own responsibility, go, what didn't I do as a son that I could have done differently that may have actually allowed him to be a different dad? And, there's so much has come out of that since that workshop for me that, I'm going through. And recently, like last Saturday night, I had a dream and my dad appeared in the dream. And it was meant to be like, he turned up as if he was a boyfriend of someone else, right? And it was really strange for me. But all he did was keep smiling at me and holding me. And and then Sunday morning, I woke up and I had an energy shift. Like, I was like, right, I'm cleaning out the fridge. We're going to get all this healthy food. Like, I'm starting this exercise program. Like, I just went bang and switched. And it was just an amazing sensation, an amazing feeling. And I'm like, yeah, cool. I think finally that complete forgiveness and that complete letting go is finished now. And again, it had to start from that workshop, and it had to start from people holding space for me and giving me permission to grieve and giving me permission to go through it. So, it's just awesome.
Oh, I love that, man. And Milvo, what was coming up for me amongst that too was I felt every word you were saying too. Like, the universe always has our back. It's just whether or not we're willing to listen to is what I've learned on my spiritual journey. And at times I'm not listening to it.
Yeah.
But he's always there presenting these opportunities for us to forgive and let go, for us to step into our power and stand our truth, or take up space, whatever that is, taking those opportunities. And as I was listening to you have that dream of your dad, I was like, oh man, because I have so many conversations with our brothers that are quite spiritual, and made me a believer from allowing me to experience it, from allowing me to be held from them, and me allowing that as well, going into all of these, someone call them messages that we get, visuals, whether it be a dream or an episode through breath work, as you're aware, so many different things, or even just a person that's put in front of you. When are you going to listen to say, these are the ones for you, and understand which time to put up those walls and time to let it be and surrender to that moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. So Thanks for that conversation. That was beautiful. As I really wanted to round out, again from the episode. So let's take a step back to your story, because this podcast is about men being able to talk to their story, their journey. So you're doing a lot of work in the last 2 years, but that would indicate there's a number of years prior to that there was a different there was a person that was in a different thing. So can you take me a bit through that journey? What did it look like for you? When did it start? You've talked into depression and you've talked into suicide. So are you okay to open up into that space and just talk through that for us, please?
Sure. So it first started, my first meeting with suicide or depression, everything like that, would be when I was a teenager, and I think I was 13, 14. And I remember that moment so clearly because I was having an argument with my sister, which actually sparked the tip of the iceberg boiling over. And I tried to commit suicide. We lived in a 2-story house. The bottom of the house was just being built, so it was only half finished, and there was all these railings and palings, and I tied a rope around and I tried to hang myself there. And my sister, she came in and she actually caught me. She kicked the chair, I put it back under there, helped me down, talked to me, and then she called our father. And he came home and he told me, "What the hell are you doing?" Da, 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 da. Long story short, had like counseling and things like that, but I'd never ever go to the counseling. I think I only from memory had one session with that, because I never ever, it was like a stranger, or it was a stranger.
Yep.
So there was no way in hell I was talking to someone I did not know, let alone I couldn't even talk to my own family or my own friends, because of when I was growing up. Now, knowing what I know now, it was as I was leading up to these moments that had happened beforehand in my life, it all linked back to feeling loved. So moving forward, was a pretty good footy player. Came over here originally to Australia for footy. Met a girl, had 2 beautiful kids to her, and things still went into a relationship, not knowing my own self. Still carrying all of this weight and not knowing that I was carrying weight, but leaning into drugs, alcohol, sex, pornography, whatever it was, to try and fill these voids that I didn't even know voids happened. I wasn't even aware that I had these voids. I wasn't aware that I was carrying this weight. So I was still very, very shut off. I was not open. Although I portrayed to be so extrovert and so fun-loving and happy, like trying to be the life of the party, more of an attention seeker, I'd say. I was an attention seeker, looking for attention, because I was like, look at me, I have this want and need. See me, love me, because my dad didn't love me. And all these things played out. Again, I tried suicide a few times, and one major one that stands out for me is when I tried to actually do it in front of my partner at the time. It was my kid's mum, and my kids were sort of right there too as well in the car. And that time actually was a massive wake-up call that something was not right within myself. And recently, I've become so aware of all what I make sense of it now. After I'm 35 now, so after 33 years, that I didn't feel loved from, like we say, our fathers that we put on a pedestal. They're our superheroes. And I didn't feel love from him. I knew that he loved me. I just didn't feel that he loved me. I knew that what he was doing was the best that he could do. Now I know that, not at the time. At the time, I felt more of an expectation put on me. Like, you have to be this particular way. You have to be this person, because he was this particular way. And words that ring true to me all the time in my head are, when they see you, they see me. So I used to think I had to uphold this big facade of being this big, tough, moldy boy, because that's what my old man was. And he had a reputation of being this tough guy that didn't take no crap from anyone, and that if you talk badly, then I'm going to smack you in the mouth. And that's how things were handled. And to be completely honest, I was a scared little boy. I never ever wanted to fight. So when I would fight and things like that, it was more because I heard my old man's voice in my head.
Yeah. Yep.
When they see you, they see me. So throughout my whole life, even with football, when they see you, they see me. So I felt like more so I'm letting other people down. So it was like that massive trait of people pleasing and things like that.
Yes. Yep.
So then not understanding that then, understanding it now, that was a heavy burden that I was carrying around and not actually being able to express any of these feelings to anyone, that I'm actually scared. I'm actually worried. I actually don't want to do these things, but I'm doing these more so for other people, not myself.
Yes.
So that moving forward to now, and actually I'll go back a little bit. I'll go into the relationship with my kid's mum.
Okay. Yep.
So knowing what I know now, and behind closed doors, I was an asshole to her and to my children, because all my stuff that I'd bottled up around work, footy, hanging out with mates and things like that, not being able to stand in my truth and tell people, no, I don't want to do these things, or actually, no, what I'm wanting to do is this. Then taking all that drama and everything like that I had, all that energy, loaded it in my bag of shit, and then taking that back home and then dumped it on all the people that actually loved me.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I know that now, because when I used to go home, it'd be easier to yell and scream at my kids and that stuff and say, hey, shut up, blah, 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 because I've had a bad day or anything. And I'd just take it out on them unintentionally, but it was just reaction, not even conscious, just trying to get, say, 10, 20 minutes to myself, them not even understanding that all they're saying is, oh, Dad, I love you. I want to hug you and all this sort of stuff. At times, yes, but for the most part, it'd be, no, Dad's too tired, too cranky, too angry, even to my kid's mum too.
Yeah. Yep.
So that ended up being part and parcel of all of that depression and that stuff, just bottling everything up, not feeling safe enough within myself to express. So yeah, that's pretty much all of that journey for now.
Yeah. And thanks for sharing it, man. I think, for me, and you touched on a few things. The terms around not aware that that's what I was doing, and not aware, like you can look back now, and I know I can look back now. Like I know my kids grew up in a house of fear. I know my wife that we've been together for 20, 25 plus years. Still are areas where she's afraid to open up to me because of the behaviors that I've ingrained in her over 20 odd years about how I operated. Because the same thing, people pleaser, hurt people hurt the people they love, because that's the easy targets, and that's what we tend to do. And I often equate it too as around that I see us as being finite containers. And what actually happens is every time we suppress an emotion, all we're doing is filling up that container. And there's a point where the lid just explodes off and we don't know where it comes from. And so we attack out and we go out. And sometimes that could be work colleagues, but sometimes it's often at home, or it's at your kids, or it's do this and do that. And, there's this big explosion takes place, and you go, like, where the hell did that come from? Like, you sort of know it's not right, but you're not sure where it comes from. And then what happens is that you feel lighter, and then you go on for another, might be 1 or 2 weeks or whatever else. And next thing it happens again. And it's this repetitive cycle that we tend to do. It's because, when we're brought up, I feel when we're brought up in a household where, as you said, there's expectations, there's, don't show your emotions, we're meant to be tough, we're not meant to do these sorts of things, then we don't have a release mechanism. We're not taught to express our emotions and allow them to come out, but they have to come out in one way or the other. And if they don't come out like in the verbal side of things, then they end up appearing in illnesses. And this is where more studies are coming out now around the fact of people actually, like, they'll get sick regularly, or to the worst case, they'll end up with a cancer or something else. And there's a reason why sometimes we can't find the cure for these sorts of things, because we're not looking at the emotional side of what's
Yes,
happening to people,
100%.
right? Because it's got to be stored somewhere, and it's toxic, and so it's working through that. So, so thank you again for sharing that story, because there's so much I can relate to that. I just want to touch back on the thing you talked about, the expectation, of your dad. Like, I can't remember the words you used again. A reflection of you as a reflection of me, or
Yeah.
yep,
When they see you, they see me.
yeah, beautiful. My dad was a careers advisor in a small country town. And so if I was out playing up, the view was, how do you think that's going to look on me when I'm trying to go to all these local business people and their son is the one that's at the police station, or the son's playing up? Like, so there's this whole expectation of I had to do a certain role so that he could maintain his reputation in the small town. And for me, like, in the end, that wouldn't stop me going out and partying on everything else at the ages of 15, 16,
Yep.
17, because it's like, F you. Like, I'm not here to protect your reputation now, but you care about me. And that was that playing out, element. So let's move forward. As you said, like, you're 35 now, and we've spoken about a couple of years. So where was that awakening moment for you? Like, where was that point where you've gone through that, you've had your kids, there's a whole lot of stuff happening with you and your partner and everything else. But for a lot of men, there's that point in time, or there's that conversation, or there's that event that sort of, I know, a light switch goes on, or we start to go, hang on, there's something else happening here. Was there a moment for you with that?
Yeah, there was a moment, and it wasn't until probably a year into that spiritually awakened thing
Okay.
and of that journey. And it wasn't until I really started to just be, so embody that self-love. So I used to talk about it, preach about it, do everything, like do morning routines, do meditation, do eat good, all this sort of stuff. So I had an experience of it all, but I hadn't actually embodied it all. And it wasn't until a moment in a workshop, or just after a workshop, and we were talking, and conversation was flowing, as you know.
Yep.
And then I was just like, man, I'm normally in awe of all these people. When now I'm actually loving myself enough to stand in my truth and know this is my purpose, this is where I belong. But it wasn't until, you know what? I feel worthy. I feel worthy of myself.
Yeah.
I believe myself, and the stuff that I'm saying, the words that are coming out of my mouth, the thoughts that I'm thinking, everything that I'm feeling, I believe it. Now, instead of just saying these things because that's the thing to say, or just do these things because they're the things to do. It wasn't until I was actually being it and actually feeling it. You know what? I am the man. I am a king. I am worthy. That's when the spark was for me. That was what I love to call the spark. And it was when you actually know, when you love yourself, then you can truly love others.
Yes.
And that was the moment for me. That was definitely the moment for me inside of my own journey. All the other stuff that was outside of my life that was happening evolved around me actually choosing myself.
Yes.
And then when I was able to choose myself, I could see a lot more things for myself. And I become aware, a lot more aware. Because when I was loving myself, I wasn't taking on board all these little situations I was putting myself into. And then I was getting sort of immersed in that situation and forgetting about everything else that was really, really good. So, for example, it'd be like I get involved with someone's talking about other people and judging other people, and be, yeah, why do they do that? Da, 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 rather than actually seeing it for what it was. And now that I'm thinking about it, this is this perfect cliche saying that I say to a lot of our family and friends and things like that, is when you're able to become, if you're looking like a movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're either being the actor or you're being the director. So you can either see what's being played out and write those lines for each and every other actor that's in that movie, or you can be that actor that's taking on all that emotion, that anger, being the villain or being the hero, but ultimately you're only just seeing what's there present in that movie scene. Or you can be the director in your life, and I can see this scene, I can see what environment's best suited to that, I can see the people that can play this role perfectly, I'm going to write these words and everything for that situation, now I'm going to move to the next and move to the next.
That's beautiful, man. No, I absolutely like that, because that from a deeper spiritual point of view, like that's almost taken to the level where the director is the true being able to see the ego and how the ego is playing out, and seeing where the children, the hurt children that are popping up in your life are actually playing out. So you're right. You can actually stand back and say, right, I'm now a witness to myself and what's happening in my life and what's happening around me. And because of that, you can either call cut, like on the movie. You can go, right, cut, stop, hang on, slow down a minute before I jump in and I realize, and you can, and that's where you can have that conversation with the partner or with the kids or with others around. You go, oh, hang on a minute. One of my children is actually talking on my behalf here. One of my hurt children I haven't solved for. So I'm going to slow down here. I'm going to acknowledge that. Have to go off and do a bit more work over here to actually forgive them. So as part of that self-love is that forgiveness of, you don't have to step in here anymore. We are okay. I acknowledge that you were hurt at that point in time. I acknowledge why you were hurt for that reason. But just know that we are now okay, and that you're loved and you're always loved, and you now need to forgive for that piece. So when we talk about forgiving, it's actually allowing our child to forgive that dad at that 13-year-old moment or that 15-year-old moment, and allow them to have peace. And then they can actually pack up and say, cool, I'm now at peace and I can actually move on. And for me, that's
100%. Milvo, something just come up. Sorry to cut you off. Something come up was, this is what we talk about all the time too, is with that inner child work and the shadow child. So it's that work with them, work with that little kid. What is it that he needs to feel? What does he need to let go? And then love on him so much that, cool, he knows that adult 2 now has gone. Adult Milvo, I got you, bro. You're my side. I got you, Mo. I love you. Put that arm around him, sweet as, but I got this, bro. I know this thing now.
Yeah.
But you're right. They just show up in these moments. And it's like, interesting. Where have you come from? Whereabouts in my life did this happen for me? That I need to love on you, or something to let go, or something to forgive. Because that forgiveness is for us.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone else. It's for us to be able to understand what actually was going on. What it was for both us and for whoever was involved in that moment, and then to love on self and each other and move forward and say, look, right now I'm safe, I'm okay. That happened for me to build my strength, to build up my resilience, to build up whatever that may be to be built up. And more often than not, it's standing in your truth. Or for me lately, it's standing in your truth, and that people-pleasing thing just shows up so much. So much.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. I'll get onto that. That recently, I'm a baseball fan, and recently, there was an event in the US about the Field of Dreams. I don't know whether you know the baseball movie, but there's a baseball movie. If you people go on, if you build it, they will come.
They will come.
The word is, if you build it, he will come. When you re-listen to the movie, it's about he will come, and they actually played a Major League Baseball game actually at a diamond they built right beside the Field of Dreams in Iowa. So they actually played the Yankees versus the White Sox played a game. We rewatched the movie, and that's why I re-picked up on, if you build it, he will come. When you think about that in our life, I've translated that to the whole thing of, if you build space, forgiveness will come. And for me, like I cried throughout that whole movie. like Jackie's looking at me going, what's going on? I just got tears, right? Because it touched me on every level, but not on the baseball level or on the movie level. It's like, oh my God, this is so reflective of my life. Because I need to keep creating this space so I can forgive. And that was that night was when my dad appeared in the dream. And so like he came directly after that. And it's so like, that was why it was so powerful. And so that's that part of the thing about every time that child pops up, it's like, okay, what space do I need to build so that he can feel safe? And so therefore we can acknowledge him and go, it's okay. And the other thing that popped in my mind, back to where we spoke at the very start, is when I reflect, what took place in that workshop with us was you were actually holding space for my child. Because it was my child that was grieving. So even though we were there as adult men, you were actually the one holding space and holding me and saying to me, my child, me going, it's okay. We've got you. you're going to be okay. You are loved. And for me, that's where that powerful moment was, because we're actually, even though we're adult men, we're actually holding our children in that space. I was
Yes,
holding
fuck.
yours, you're holding mine. And so when you go, my Aussie dad, it was your inner child going, this is my dad that's saying, I'm loved and I'm okay and I've been seen. And
Yes, 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 yes. Oh, I'm so happy. I've got so much joy running through me at the moment because yes, that's 100% what I'm feeling is truth in that whole moment.
mm,
Uh, yeah, and it comes back to when I was just saying, like we get so caught up that we want to stand in our truth. That part where there was a truth moment, like just love on me,
yeah,
see me, be me, love me. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you, Melbourne.
No, thank you. That's right. I love these conversations. The so the next thing, so let's talk through, now standing your truth and that
Mm,
that people pleaser and being able to recognize where
mm.
where the people pleaser is coming up, holding the boundary, standing in your own truth and standing in your own heart. So what does that look like for you now and what you're doing?
For me, and something that I fully accept now is that you'll never ever be able to not hurt anyone. And that was something that played out in that people pleasing pattern and programming.
Mm,
And I feel this could be for a lot of us. It's you don't want to share the truth because you're scared it will hurt them.
mm,
So something that I've come to grips inside of my new relationship is I promise you, oh sorry, I'll go back. I can't promise you that I'll never hurt you, but I can promise you that I'll be there to navigate whatever is going on for both myself and you inside of this moment, inside of this experience. And that's played out massively. And something also too that's been a great tool for both of us is if there's something that's sitting on our heart and we don't have the courage to share that then and there, or we feel like we're robbing someone because they're going through a process themselves of something, but something's come up during that moment,
mhm.
then we must speak it within 24 hours
Okay.
because we've now allowed space for them to be held first and foremost, but then, hey, something else come about from that I need to unpack. So can we quickly speak into this?
Mm.
And then, yes, and then more often than not, we get caught up in the space of wanting to defend ourselves and everything like that we get caught in our head. And we're so very, very aware that are we leading from, like you said earlier, for when we have that spiritual understanding of your higher self is actually operating from your heart space, you're operating from love. Is this leading with love? Or is this, I'm stuck in my head, I'm trying to make a logical sense of everything. So logic seems right to me right now, so I can't surrender to faith and the feeling or the knowing. So what I actually do know is from past experiences of what I've been through. So that gives me an answer. So that must be right rather than surrendering to having more views than just your own more often than not.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely love that. Jack and I are in a similar position. If one of us feels like, even if we've hopped into bed and you just feel that the energy is not quite there, we prefer to, even if it's like getting later at night, we prefer to actually just have that conversation and actually
Mm,
allow the space and allow the emotion, allow it to come through so we can talk through it. So that way, when we're going to bed and we're going to sleep, we actually are going to sleep with clearing energy. So we're actually,
yes.
sleeping, and then, and then we'll cuddle before we go to sleep. And, because I'm a really big believer is the energy and the mindset you go to sleep with is the actual energy and the mindset you wake up with.
Mm-hmm,
And if you've
mm-hmm.
gone to bed with, anxiety and stress and worry and negativity, and, you've got something on your mind that you're either it's in your mind or you just feel you need to come out. If you don't allow that out, one, it's probably going to pop up in your dreams, but two, you are going to wake up the next morning. And sometimes you don't understand why you're feeling a bit shitty the next morning or you're feeling a bit flat. It's because you've carried that energy all night. If you can go to if
100%.
you can go to sleep with having cleared energy, and then the last thing before you really go to sleep is almost have that gratitude thing about how happy and how good it is and everything else. When the next morning comes, although you might feel a bit sluggish physically, your energy is like, no, I'm awake again. It's another good day, and then you can pick up and move forward into the next day.
I love that. I love that so much because I see so many similarities and amongst my new relationship that I'm going through now is that when something comes up, we have to speak into it as well, regardless of how late it is, because you need to go to bed grateful, peaceful.
Yes.
And then and even if you haven't resolved the whole situation, bringing it back so you're not in your head, you're in your heart space, and then we can navigate a bit more. And it's almost like we spoke earlier and we touched earlier, like when we had that compartment of so much space, that when it's all filled up with all this crap and everything like that, we've now gone to bed and it's still there. At least we've lightened that load somewhat, somehow. And I love it too, because there was something that, as you were speaking too, there was a tool that came up for me as well, was that we have to allow them to be able to hold that space.
Yes.
Because from my own experience that came up was, I was having a moment, one of my shadow childs had risen without me even knowing, because I wasn't aware.
Yep.
I was in that moment as that kid. As I was able to give myself space, realizing I'm reactive. Hold on, what's going on for me? Now, okay, I'm slowly moving back towards my higher self, but I'm still in this ego. She's asking, hey, what's going on? She feels, like you said, feels this energy. What's going on? Oh, no, nothing. That's that general indicator. Come on. As soon as you say that word, we both know. Come on.
Yep.
When you're ready, just, I'm right here, but I'm not going to bed until we talk about this. And then that was that tool that came up for me, was allow yourself to be held.
Yes.
Let go of that ego, surrender that ego, and just allow. It's not that scary. It's not that tough. And then once you did, it was, oh, holy, what a relief. But the body had this so much programming. Nope, walls are going up. There's nothing else. Bam, I'm stuck in my head. I'm not going to let you through. She goes, you're stuck in your head right now. I said, yes, I am. Then keep talking, and then realize it wasn't even what I was initially reacted at. It was so much deeper and everything else. And then, oh, beautiful tears, hugs, understanding, compassion, gone to bed.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Wake up in the morning, so much gratitude, so much appreciation, massive acknowledgement towards each other. But we actually celebrate each other too. I'm proud of you, but I'm actually, you know what? I'm proud of me for actually allowing myself to be held, or allowing process to play out with each other, for each other.
Yeah. And it goes back to the point you said earlier, like if you let go, it will flow. And you allow that energy to flow and not have the blockages, and allow it to actually come up and flow through you. So it's it's definitely a super powerful thing. The other thing that I work with as well is when Jackie's going through a release process and if she's externalizing, I used to take that on and be offended by it. But you've got to, but that's my head and that's my ego going, what the fuck? I'm not this bad person, like all these sorts of things. But what I sit there is when I feel that coming up, I sit there and go, hang on, stop. This isn't about you. Stop breaking your heart. There is stuff that's coming up with her and what she could be talking to. She might be externalizing through you, but it's really stuff that she's just not quite sure how to express. And so don't take it personally. Sit in your heart, hold the space. Allow her to work through her way through it, and don't react to it, and then just inquire and ask some questions and work our way back through all this. And most of the time when you do that when you're holding the right space, your partner, and they'll do the same, she does the same for me, you realize that what you probably did was externalize something because that was the most comfortable thing to do, or that's the normal reaction. And then allow them the space to just talk through it and then see, I see that this child's popped up, or I see this happen in my life, or this is what took place. So that's the key for me as well. Now that I'm learning, I used to be very reactive all the time going, what do you mean? Like I'm, bringing in the money, I'm doing all the cooking, I'm doing all the washing. Like, what else do you want me to do? Like, going back. Right. And that's just this ego being hurt. Right. And it's like, no, hang on a minute. All she's doing it, like, just allow the space and don't take it personally, because it's their items and their emotions and their feelings, and they're entitled to them, and that's okay, and allow them to work their way through it. And amongst that, there could be some really valuable feedback. So if you're going to be reactive, like, you got to go, no, hang on a minute, maybe there is some stuff that I did or how I reacted or how I operated or how I'm still going, that I do need to take that on as feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So listening with your heart enables you to do two things: not take it personally, but also listen for where there is valid feedback. And then you can acknowledge and take accountability and go, you know what, I did play a role in this as well, and I will look to be better and I'll look to do this, but I may not be great at it. So call me on it where you think I'm actually overstepping the mark still. And that's where you get to these really beautiful conversations.
Such beautiful conversation. So much was coming up amongst it. I'd smile from ear to ear because I've had so many of those times where I feel like I got to defend myself and stuff like that. But really, like you said, it's really a discomfort for yourself at times to hold space, especially for the person that you love and they're just expressing. So more often than not, some of the tools that we get to is just speak. I'm just going to listen. Just speak. And then that gives them that permission to get it all out. And really, there's probably like only two or three things inside of what they've said that actually they need to hear, but they've just got to get it all out because they're stuck in their head and so much going on that they just get it all out. And then, they'll feel it when they say it. That's what it was that actually was bugging me. Oh, this is an actual shadow child, or this is an actual mirror of what's going on for me that I don't have inside of myself, or a void that's missing that I need to be filled. But you can't hear it neither if you can't hear it, neither if you're not listening. So it's more of a thing to say less, actively listen, and then, like you said, ask those questions. Do you want feedback, or do you just want me to listen? Cool, because I've been, like I said, in some of those workshops, the programs, online programs, and then I get caught in this coach mode, and she's like, "Oh, you're trying to coach me again." I'm like, "Oh shit, sorry, my bad. Oh, my bad." She goes, "I feel like you're trying to coach me right now," and I'm like, "That's feedback from me that I'm actually saying far too much and not listening enough." So, and again, that's her truth. That may or may not hurt me, but the promise is that you'll never ever hurt me. I mean, you'll never ever not hurt me. Sorry.
That's right. The
promise we'll never get it.
The biggest trap for men is we want to solve the world and we want to solve every problem. And that's where you're saying, like, they'll get to a point and then we want to jump in. They get to a point where we want to jump in. We don't have to jump in and we don't have to solve for it. We just have to allow them to work their way through it and have the conversations and show true acknowledgement, like give feedback. I hear you. That must be challenging for you. Talk through that a bit more. And then you're right. Yes. When we get to the very end, you can then ask a simple question of that. Do you mind if I talk through some of the thoughts that came up for me as you were speaking? If I heard what you're saying, it sounds like this to me. It sounds like there's an inner child that maybe isn't there, or is there something else that came up that you hadn't actually got to? So you can actually go back and go, here's what I felt, or here's what came up for me in my thought, and this is where I went to. Am I in line with what you're thinking? And here is there something else could we explore? And so it's actually not then saying, right, if I was you, I'd go off and do this spirit work, and then I'd actually, go down and write a letter, and I'd actually be going and burn it. No, they're going like, dude, just back off, right?
Yes.
And the one thing that I'm not great at still, and I'm fully acknowledging this, like we had a session last night, and so I was going to do exercise, but I held space for Jackie, and it was a beautiful thing. But I never hugged her afterwards. I never actually went. We never closed out with that, and so I acknowledge that that's still part of me due to my bringing up of not having any emotion or hugs or that in my life. That it's not a natural thing for me to do, and so when you end, it's like, and it's not trying to console them on the way through because you got to allow that space, not suppress it. But at the end, lean in and go, okay, let's hold each other and just and have that, allow that physical connection to take place. And I know that's an area that I need to lean into heavier because that's something that Jackie needs from me, and that's an area I've got to let go on as well. So it's just they're all learning processes and working through that.
100%. That's beautiful, Milva. And like you said, it's not something that you're accustomed to or used to, but isn't it beautiful? You can still unlearn certain ways that we were, certain behaviors, and relearn them in such a beautiful space and a beautiful know-how of what actually I want to do from choice.
Yeah. It's interesting, the fact that the one thing I craved in my whole lifetime was emotion and being held. And then now I'm in this space. It's the one thing I'm still not doing. Like, it's such like, dude, this is what you wanted, but now you're not even stepping into it. So like, that wall, there's that thing to break down, and we can work.
And that's what's coming up for me too, was like, man, I could say and do all the things, and it wasn't until I was being them. It wasn't until I was being those things, and that's when the penny dropped, and that's when the actual embodiment of everything came about. Because you can say and do other things because you know it, you've got the knowledge of it all. It's not until you have that experience and just keep stepping into it, that it becomes that newfound behavior. Because you're right, it's not easy. And it's something that actually come up, we're going back a little bit here, something that came up as you were talking to with your experience of Jackie was too often, and we all do it, us men, is we don't let them have their mistakes because of our protective nature.
Yes.
Because we've been it and we've seen it, and it's like, no, it's either I don't want you to do it because you're going to hurt yourself or something's going to happen, so I'm trying to protect you, or it's more of discomfort for you to let them go through that experience. So you're like, oh no, I'm freaking out. Don't do that. When really, how are they supposed to learn if they don't actually have these mistakes themselves? They won't learn, nor will they understand if they don't have an experience of that. Like we both know, knowledge and experience connected is the most beautiful thing. Mind-body connection, that's where the wisdom comes from. Because you can read everything, you can watch everything. It's not until you actually do it, one part, and then actually embody the whole two things together. Say and do, and then be about it. Say and do, and then be about it. Then you get to have more and more choice in life.
That is so true. I mean, because there are so many books out there you can read. There's so many programs you can do. There's so much online stuff you can actually do. But, there's the academic side of things. So egoically, you can do all those sorts of things.
Yes.
But it's not until you really embrace it down in your heart and actually allow it to drop in there. And give yourself permission to not be perfect. Give yourself permission to make the mistake and not be embarrassed about it and own up to it and allow yourself to actually just be human and allow all that to take place and embrace all the humanness that you are. The one thing that's happened for me recently is, I realized even though I moved in the world of self-love, there was parts of me that I still wasn't loving, which, I've got a little belly roll that sits around my belly, and there's always this part now, like I'm a naked in front of the mirror dancer, right? And it's all out there, right?
Yes, Bilbo.
And it's because, again, I had that moment where I've just embodied, no, I love all this. I can improve on it. Like I can drop some of that weight and I can actually get toned so I can control of those aspects, but don't be hating on those parts of it because that is me.
Yes.
This is all of who I am. This is the humanness that I am. So I love every part of it, but then work through and if I'm going to improve on it, then just accept the fact that that's cool. I'll work through this process and improve on it. And there's those simple things that I think, again, it's that ego going, I have to have that perfect body. I have to, I have to do this. I have to be able to do that. So then it's all that externalization. And you're right. It's not until that's complete full embodiment, and I'm learning even more now what full embodiment really does mean. And I tell you, when you start to get into it, it's such a beautiful space. It's such a calming, peaceful, loving, just really nice space to operate in. And that's that letting go, because the other side is actually really cool. Like it's a much better spot
really
to live
cool.
in. Like let go and get into that place. Like
something that was coming up. There was a bit that was coming up, but it was true and truth. So what's true right now is, yes, I'm not happy with the way I look. Things are a little bit wobbly, and I have beforehand been in better condition physically than what I was before. But the truth is, you can still love on yourself right now. You can accept that I'm not happy with what I am right now, but still love on it. The truth is, I would like to get to this place. Cool. That's the truth. But what's true right now is, cool, I'm acknowledging all the stuff that's wobbly and shoveling. Still love you. I still love you. That's true. But when you get really honest with yourself, the truth is, cool, I want to do the hard work, exercise, eat well, everything like that. So then my true truth is, cool, I love myself because I'm fit, able, healthy, I can move, can do all these things freely. Cool.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Beautiful.
True and truth.
And I love that. The other element on that is when you're moving your way through that, don't expect a quick result. Like that's the one thing I'm learning. And again, it was a conversation we had last night. It was about there's an amazing book called Atomic Habits, and I really like that book, right? But when I think through things I've done, like, you know, there's like, I slowly let go of lollies, and I haven't eaten lollies for 2 years. Like I still have a bag of chips, but, you know, now I'm not having chocolate. Like I don't have any soft drink anymore as I used to have soft drink, you know. So there's all these little things that I haven't actively gone, right, I'm cutting off. But what I've actually done is slowly, there's this, as each bad habit, you know, whether it's good or bad, let's not talk about duality, but these habits that aren't serving me, as I'm slowly decreasing, the habits that are serving me, I'm slowly bringing in, but I'm not making that dramatic change. I'm allowing it to just gradually happen. And then all these things that serve me are slowly coming in at the right time, at the right pace, and allowing it to happen. And then,
100%.
and then all those things move through. So in 18 months, yes, a part of this belly roll may disappear, but I know I can't expect to get rid of it within a month or 2 months, because one, I'm in my 50s, so much harder to burn the fat and get rid of it, right? You know, I've built this body up over many, many years, so I've got to expect it to, if I want a new body, I've got to allow the same time frame for it to get the other direction, right? And it's that giving yourself time and space, and there's almost that level of ongoing forgiveness of, it's okay, we'll work our way through this, and allow to the small changes are actually result in the largest changes if you just subtly do them on a daily basis. So yeah,
small things and excellence. Small things and excellence. It's just like that cliche picture of someone trying to climb a ladder, and there's only like 4 steps on the ladder that are spaced out drastically, and then there's another one with such small steps, and the guy with the such small steps can go up the ladder. The other dude's still trying to reach for that first step because it's too far. So just small things and excellence. Small things and excellence.
Beautiful. I love that, man. I know that we've just run a bit over the time of what we allocated today. And I really want to thank you for, you know, jumping on again, creating this time and space for us to have this beautiful conversation. Is there a message for the men out there, or, you know, who are listening to this, or the women who have got men in their lives, you know, like a bit of a message that you would like to say, hey bros, hey men, hey kings, here is something that, you know, just to think about, you know, to do, which based off your experience or something that worked for you, that we could just leave a bit of a message for the men out there?
Sure. There's a lot that I would say, but I'll keep it short. And that is, for us men, really, really find yourself. Remember who you are. Love on yourself. Love on all of the things you believe are imperfect, because something that sticks out right now is it is perfect to be imperfect. Perfectly imperfect. And when you understand that, you'll know in yourself that you are allowing yourself to just be. So I'll leave everyone with that. Is equality is something unheard of, something that is drastic, though love and acceptance is a true form of allowing ourselves to be. Thank you, Milbo.
Beautiful, man. I absolutely love that. And just to let you know, perfectly imperfect or imperfectly perfect is actually one of my mantras. Like, I just love the fact that you went there with that. I'm like, because if you hadn't, I was actually going to jump in. Like, I just love that so much. Like, I've done some painting recently, and I'm like, I love it because they are perfectly imperfect, right?
Yes.
But the fact that I did it, it doesn't matter, right? And that's why I so much love that saying that you come up with. So
can I quickly talk on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
So it came about in a call just recently, and it was how everyone was trying to say, like, I want perfect, I want this perfect. And it's like, man, if something's perfect, you don't pay any other attention than when you initially made it perfect. So once it's perfect, it's like, cool, don't touch it anymore, leave it there, just put it on a mantelpiece, something like that. Whereas when it's imperfect, you keep working at it, you keep navigating and allowing, and just like in our relationships, it's perfectly imperfect. keep leaving it as it is. Because as soon as you know someone, you get bored, right? As soon as you know something, cool, I'm going to go get I've watched the movie, I know the movie now, I'm going to go get a new movie. Or I've played this game or whatever it is, and I've finished the game. Cool. Now it's it's perfectly imperfect. And that's the way that it keeps saying interesting, keeps that spark, keeps everything guessing, keeps the faith in there, keeps allowing. So yeah, I love that.
Beautiful, man. Thanks for that again. So again, thank you very much for saying coming on, saying yes when I put out the offer to you. I love that beautiful connection we had at the workshop. You know, that's stuck with me as we spoke about through here. There's a very beautiful place in my heart for you. And I've loved reconnecting with you again. I'm really looking forward to continuing to have the connections. And when we get a chance to have borders open, we are definitely on our way up to Queensland. And there's so many beautiful men that I'm looking to get up there, and there'll be plenty of hugs and plenty of laughs and probably some tears along the way through.
Plenty.
But I'm really looking forward to it. So again, there's much love and gratitude for you. Thanks for coming on today. I really appreciate that. And you just have a beautiful day, my brother.
Thank you, Milvo. Thank you for having me. Just like you said, there's a special place in my heart too, massively for my Aussie dad. I'll always remember that. That'll never, ever change. The energy that was felt from that experience is for us, for me especially. Love you. Thank you for allowing me on your podcast. I feel very privileged and honored. And thank you again for this beautiful conversation. Hugs, laughter, conversations, so much more. Everything involved in connection. Love you, Milvo.
Yeah, beautiful. Love you too, man. And have a great day. Chat soon. Wow, what a beautiful conversation with Tu about his journey. I think we touched on so many topics around, forgiveness and, fathers and, our relationships. And, again, I just really love the way that we closed out about, accepting that everything's perfectly imperfect and that's okay. So that's, I'm going to close that out now. So thanks everyone for listening in. That's episode 37 of the Unearthed Man podcast. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. You all have a beautiful day. Much love and peace. Milvo.